Speaking of Disney, let's talk about the infamous Snow Woke and the 7 magical creatures, also known as Rachel Zegler Can't Shut the F Up. So we got this incredibly biased article from Slate, no surprise there, talking about how basically Rachel Zegler is no longer just the target of quote unquote right-wing wackos. She's actually managed to piss off everyone on both sides of the aisle. And she's done so by basically insulting the original Snow White. So all the Disney adults out there now hate her. And she just can't catch a break, according to Slate here. And, all of Slate's biases aside, they actually kind of outline how Rachel Zegler's older comments about this thing have systematically turned the entire audience against her, to the point where she's like Brie Larson 2.0. Like, if you've noticed Brie Larson after she kind of came out as like the woke queen of Marvel, she's never starred in like an actual movie since then, right? She's never headlined the movie. She's always been with like a co-star or an ensemble cast or something like that. And it's because she did such damage to her own brand that people aren't going to show up for a Brie Larson movie. I feel like Rachel Zegler is kind of like headed in the same direction here. I mean, she was never a big draw to begin with, because nobody knew who the F she was until like she started bashing on Snow White. But she's also kind of like emblematic of the problem with young Hollywood nowadays, which is basically they are tone deaf. They're very kind of like up in their own thing. So Matt Vader 74.
Yeah.
What's your general take on Miss Zegler in general and her comments about Snow White and the 7 magical creatures?
I really haven't been paying a whole lot of attention to this whole thing, mostly because it's just another little entitled Hollywood Disney brat who thinks she's more important than she really is. She's like me. She's a bit of a Twitter troll. If you go look at her Twitter, it's pretty amazing. She's just like the opposite of what I do. Instead of going after the wokies, she goes after us and, calls us names and tries to make us feel bad about ourselves and says nasty things about Gina Carano or whoever. And except the difference between her and me is she's in a business where she's going to cost Disney probably $100 million when it's all said and done. So what she needs to do is just put her Twitter away and shut the fuck up.
Yeah, shut up.
It's amazing to me that these people's handlers don't have more of a handle on what these people do for a living. You know what I mean? She's literally costing them money every day. She's costing them money every single day with her takes on things. And it's kind of a sad thing. I mean, this movie's doomed from the get-go. I mean, come on. It's what is it that Gary says? Snow Brown and the 7 Seattle baristas? Is that, or was this somebody said something like that? I forget, but it looks terrible.
Say the 7 vagabonds.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know, but
the seven diversity hires.
Yeah, it looks awful what they're doing here, and she's not helping the case at all. It's just another case. She's a female Ruffalo, right? She goes up there and she just talks mad shit and doesn't care anything about the ramifications of what she's doing. And if I was the studio, I would be extremely upset with her. And maybe they are, but we're probably not ever going to hear about it. I'm actually waiting for her to go silent on Twitter and her social medias here, probably pretty soon. And they're going to try to blame the toxic incels like us out there who are going to drive her. Oh my God, my stuff's breaking. We're going to drive her off of Twitter, and it's all going to be our fault. And then there's going to be 6 months of talking videos and chit chat about how we're toxic and drive people off of Twitter again, like Rose Tico and Ray. So whatever, it's going to happen.
I knew she was turning into the next Brie Larson when Jeremy from the Quartering started building his next she shed with video.
So Brian, as our resident Latinx on the panel, One of the interesting things about this is that so typically they would just dismiss the criticisms as like right wing, wackos, being racist and all that stuff. But here you have lots of people on the opposite side of the spectrum criticizing her. So there's things like basically they don't like the fact that she's making fun of the fact that that Snow White is a century-old animated film, or like whatever, like saying like, oh, it was made in the 30s, so it's old. Then they don't like the fact that she referred to the prince as a stalker. Some people are asking like, they're taking issue with the fact that she's promoting the fact that it's not a romance. And people are saying like, aren't women allowed to want love? When did romance become such a bad thing? But most of the people who are fans of Snow White just don't like the fact that someone who is headlining this movie isn't a fan of the original, because she's been on record as saying that she only watched it once when she was a kid and she didn't like it. So like what's your take on this? Do you think that it's not just enough to be like a good actor nowadays? Like people have to take into account like are there more Henry Cavills out there who are actually fans of the things that they're involved with?
Yeah, I don't even know if she's that good of an actor. We saw her I've seen her in a few things, but the latest thing for me was Shazam 2, and she didn't do anything.
Wait, that was her?
That was her. Yeah, she played like the 5,000-year-old
the young kind of hot sister.
Yeah. The younger of the villainous sisters, and she had the anime thing going on where she's like, I'm actually 5,300 years old, but she looks like she's 15. Okay. And she was fine. She didn't do anything that was interesting. So I don't even know if she's a good actor. I'm not really sure why they chose her particularly. To be honest, I don't mind that she's, I think that she has dark hair and fair skin, and that's pretty much all the classification you need for Snow White. My problem is not really her casting as far as her looks are concerned, but the fact that she's not a fan. How many actors, girl actresses that also fit that bill are probably massive fans of Snow White and would leap at the chance to play the character, not because of the paycheck, but because of their passion. We need to Hollywood needs to hire more people that are passionate about the role and not about preaching some agenda or getting or modifying and transforming something to meet their current political views. That's not interesting. That's not entertaining. It's certainly not profitable. We've learned that the hard way, or they've learned that the hard way. And even if she fits the bill, looks wise, and she can act, I have not seen any proof of that yet. But regardless, she's not passionate about the source material. Now, am I passionate about the source material? No, I can give a shit. I can care less about Snow White. But I'm positive my wife and my daughters probably adore it. And so isn't it unfair to them to deprive them of being able to enjoy this because it's not going to remotely fit the source material that they love? So that's not fair to those fans. And are there fans that don't care about the source material and want to see some new, fresh take? Maybe, but I would argue that there's a lot more people that adore the source material and want to see a live action version where it actually honors that source material versus changes it or transforms it. You can make another movie that's not a Snow White live action, and you can tell whatever story you want. Why do you have to go and modify a beloved story? And some modifications are okay, but like modifying like the core principles of it is a dishonorable take on the topic. And so, while I don't personally give a crap, I know there are people that do, and that's what bothers me. Just like I care about The Witcher. I cared about The Witcher. I played the games. I love the franchise. Henry Cavill's passionate about that made it good, made it interesting. It made me want to see this version of the character. And guess what? I completely tuned out the second they let him go because they were trying to divert from the source material and he wasn't having it. When that happened, I was like, okay, well, I just have no interest in watching this. I'm not even going to complete the story because it's not interesting to me anymore. Because I care about The Witcher. I don't care about Netflix. I'm not a fan of Netflix. I'm not a fan of this director or writer. If it's a franchise thing, I'm a fan of the story. I'm a fan of that franchise. So you need to honor that franchise when you create a movie or a TV show. So, I mean, this person is going to, Rachel Zegler is eventually going to be not publicly blackballed, but she, on her current trajectory, she will be unemployable because most studios will not want to take the risk of her outspoken shenanigans damaging their bottom line. And they're going to learn that the hard way. They'll never publicly acknowledge that to that fact because she's one of them, but it will certainly be the case.
Well, I think she's also done damage by speaking out against Disney, saying like, if I have to be on set for 8 hours a day in a princess dress, I need to be paid for every hour that movie streaming. Like, she just doesn't know how stuff like that works. Real quick, guys, we need 4 more members to sign up during the course of this stream. So if you're thinking about signing up or you want to give some memberships, just need 4 more to hit our goals for this stream. Really appreciate that. And Gavin Blackburn says, Disney are only remaking Snow White to support you YouTube channels, seemingly. Yes, I could already see like the Geeks and Gamers and Quarterings, circling the wagons around Zegler to make her their new content mule.
As well they should.
I'm watching that video. Those videos start trickling out from the Quartering. I'm like, Jeremy, getting that second she shed ready.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for Kendall to do it. So
Well, so Epic Mike, one of the things that Rachel Zegler has been out there really preaching about is how Snow White, it was made in the 1930s. It actually goes way back before then in terms of like the actual source material. But like it's out of touch, and they're remaking it for a more progressive audience, a more modern audience. And you guys are starting up the Epicverse in direct response to that type of mentality, where it's like, hey, stop playing propaganda and just create entertainment. So what's your take on like the 7 magical creatures, the diversity casting, the changing of fairest of them all to mean instead of pretty, it's more just, and all that stuff?
Yeah, it's one of my biggest complaints about anything modern nowadays. The idea of updated for modern audiences is I think it's maybe one of the most arrogant, thoughtless, out of touch like things I've ever heard anybody say, because what you're basically saying is whatever's come before, despite how popular, despite how timeless, despite how loved, that stuff doesn't matter. That's not what audiences care about. What they care about is seeing themselves or seeing their own beliefs reinforced through a story. I'm like, you wouldn't have a remake of Snow White if the original Snow White wasn't popular, but you wouldn't have had that Snow White be popular if it wasn't for the fact that it was a children's tale well before all of that. You're taking established stories and things like that and saying, well, that we're getting rid of the problematic stuff. What problematic stuff? Hasn't been so problematic that it hasn't been beloved to people for hundreds, sometimes some of these stories, thousands of years. It just shows how out of touch these people are. I actually just talked about this the other day. The treatment of these previous IPs and stuff that, you can go back and rewatch like Star Trek, the original series, and maybe the effects are dated. The stories still hold up. The ideas and the concepts still hold up. The fact is, like Aesop's fables and Grimm's fairy tales, those stories are timeless. People still tell them to their kids. A lot of movies and shows are based on concepts that these people learned when they were growing up. And then they get to the age where now you can create your own things and you look back on what's come before, and to say that stuff isn't important, or that stuff is problematic, or that stuff is stupid. We don't need any of that stuff. Let's update it. Like, that doesn't make any sense, because you're not making anything new. You're just stealing somebody else's work, standing on that stuff and standing on the popularity of that work. And then they have the nerve to act surprised when they say, hey, this timeless story that everybody has loved for hundreds of years, yeah, it's garbage, and we're going to change all of it because we don't think it works. seven dwarves, a fundamental part of the story, but we're going to make them seven magical creatures. I'm like, then why are you doing Snow White? Do your own original story. But they're incapable of it because they're creatively bankrupt. They have no original thoughts. They have no original ideas. All they can do is take something that's happened before and pervert it into whatever they want to now. And it's really pathetic. But now the problem is when you do something like Snow White, it used to be, Star Trek had a more niche, I wouldn't say niche, but it was a lot of nerds. It appealed to nerds, and people could just for years dismiss nerds as like, well, you guys are just out of touch, you guys are weird, blah blah blah. Now, like something like Snow White, which is like beloved and everything, now like Rachel Zegler's just saying what they all say behind the scenes, how they all feel about it. We all know they feel that way about The Witcher. They talked about it. A writer said, hey, they hate the source material. They crap on it. They mock it. And they're like, we don't do that. And now Rachel Zegler is pulling back the curtain on all of that because she feels the way a lot of these writers and a lot of these modern writers and things like that feel behind the scenes. So I'm really glad that she's actually speaking out. I don't want her to shut up. I want her to keep tweeting and talking about how she really feels about these products so that she's never allowed to touch anything like that again. I don't want her to ever be allowed to remake a single thing again. And I want studios to hesitate to remake these stories so that people that actually care about them can do them if they want, or touch them if they want, or take them over. Like, because every time we get that, the excuse is, let's update it for modern audiences. And when was the last time we just saw a faithful adaptation of something that people really love and care about?
I think it was the Winnie the Pooh horror movie that came out.
Yeah, there it is. That was, yeah.
Blood and Honey.
Blood and Honey.
Yeah.
What's interesting about Zegler is like, she's a triple threat. Like she's one of those people who can sing and dance and act. So like she got a lot of attention, and she was in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, which is like a big boon for like a young actress. I feel like until these new things started surfacing where she was talking about this, nobody knew who she was. Like she wasn't like name recognizable, right? But one of the criticisms that's been levied against her, and I'm going to highlight this thing from Dennis Wright. He says Zegler's not that attractive. Maybe she sings real good, and one of the criticisms of her has been that she's aggressively mid. Like she's not ugly, but she's not like super. She's not hot enough to have this attitude.
In comparison to Gal Gadot, my God.
Yeah. And the whole thing about Gal Gadot being jealous of her youth and beauty just kind of strains credulity. But I wanted to open this up to the panel and say, like, what do you think about this criticism, or like Rachel Zegler isn't attractive enough to be pulling this type of attitude?
I just dude. All I see right now is people coming after us in the comments. 5 chubby dudes talk crap about Rachel Zegler's mid looks. It's like, I'm not touching this.
Well, she's no Margot Robbie. Right?
She's no Margot Robbie. That is 100% for sure. But
I don't think she's mid, but in comparison to Gal Gadot, she's mid, which makes the casting weird.
She was cute in Shazam, and I got Shazam on the brain because I just watched it for the first time.
She was, yeah, and they did the same thing in that other Snow White one. Remember, it was Kristen, whatever her name is. Yeah, Kristen Stewart versus Charlize Theron. Like, well, come on, guys, what are you talking about?
You gotta quit making the queen hotter than.
Stop making the queen hotter. Yeah, get someone older, maybe a handsome older woman, but like, don't make it someone like clearly more attractive.
That older one's quite handsome. Yeah,
Helen Mirren in there or something.
I'm going handsome because like I don't know another word for it, but like that chick, the older chick from The Expanse, she's hot.
I mean, the queen needs to be somebody who used to be super hot but is aging and starting to lose.
Bingo. Yes.
You know what I mean? Not
Gal Gadot.
Not fucking Wonder Woman.
Like Sharon Stone.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
great example.
Sure, yeah. Perfect. Or the chick from Eyes Wide Shut now. What's her name?
Nicole
Kidman. She's hot still, but she's older.
Catwoman. Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah. All of those work. They're still hot, but they're much older. So
not
Gal Gadot.
not Gal Gadot. I don't know. I think it's one of those things too. We keep seeing that too. I think she's not talentless, but there are a lot of other people that are prettier than she is and probably more talented than she is that can do these roles. And it's like, but once again, it's an entitlement. Well, like I have it. I mean, this is like a small deviation, but like the same thing happened with West Side Story. She didn't get invited to the Oscars, so she was complaining about that, making a big deal about it. And people are like, she needs to be at the Oscars. I'm like, well, we have a select allotment. They didn't think she was important enough to even be at the Oscars. Like that's the Hollywood types didn't think she was. So like, here's this woman trying to pull rank on stuff. And once again, like you guys said, she's not hotter than Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot isn't crapping on this film. You know, everybody else in this movie seems to be happy with what's right. You know, so yeah, I think it's less about her looks. I think she's, you know, aggressively mid. She might be a little hotter than mid, but I think the attitude is the way she talks and the way she carries herself makes her very unattractive to people, because I wouldn't want to be around somebody that acts like that or talks about something that people love like that with that kind of an attitude, you know?
I gotta be honest, so her AOC cosplay was pretty hot.
Well, you have a thing for AOC though.
I do have a thing for AOC though, so that's
the big booty Latino.
I mean, dude, it worked. It worked for me. I'm just saying,
a very skinny Latino.
Yeah. Brian's very pansexual in his tastes. So.
I think that's my favorite thing that Ben Stein's ever done. Was when he was like going up to her and go, man, look at that ass shake. That is a fine ass. It's like, oh my god, dude, it is crazy. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think
no lies detected.
I don't think she's mad. I think she has a bad haircut when she's playing Snow White. I think
that's true. The haircut is like
that haircut really does not work for her.
Well, the costuming is terrible too.
It's terrible.
I mean, guys, do you know whose opinion we need on Rachel Zegler? Is Tom Connors Jr.
Oh man,
there we go.
Night's Edge.
Oh, God. Another fat white guy. Yes.
How you feeling, Tom?
Oh, I'm doing peachy. I'm recovering, so I can't stay too long. I'm going to get yelled at for not having my feet up again, but I just thought I might come in and say hello.
Oh my God. Did you get the Brazilian butt lift like I suggested?
Yeah, I did.
Smart. Yes. Dude, next STLV is going to be awesome. I'm in your room.
So Tom recently went into the hospital for a procedure, and we're glad that he's back and feeling better. So Tom, what's your take on Rachel Zegler putting her foot in her mouth?
Well, it's funny because I went to this to get a procedure done, and I wanted to look like this, but they told me they don't do that extensive of work. I'd need Rick Baker or Tom Savini for that, but no, that's Paul Chato there, of course.
Oh, I can't get that on my eyeballs now.
It's a young Chato.
It's a very young Chato.
Young Chato.
Share that far and wide, he said.
More attractive than Rachel Zegler.
More pictures. No, like that's the thing. Rachel Zegler come out of nowhere. She's like the new Taylor Keish, Brie Larson, or Jai Courtney, whichever forced actor down our throats there is this year. I mean, she's only been in 2 other projects before this shit, and I don't know where she gets off thinking she's so high and mighty and above it all. But we just dropped a video too, basically calling her out for her hypocrisy. I mean, on top of it all, she's just obnoxious. And
those faces that she makes.
I understand. Well, I mean, even that aside, I mean, I understand why she's getting so much vitriol from everybody. She just rubs everybody the wrong way. I mean, she's crapping all over the original Snow White. He lied about it more than Kevin Smith did about Masters of the Universe. I mean, you know, Disney's are not going to take too kindly to you crapping on the first original Disney movie. There's that side of it. And then, you know, there's the other side of it too, where we're just preparing ourselves for the, oh, you're just racist rants, as you know, we can predict that will come when nobody goes to see this movie because it's going to be garbage.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know who she is or why she's a thing. She may have some talent, I guess, but I can't see it. I did not watch West Side Story. I saw the Shazam movie. She's pretty forgettable in that.
I didn't even know that was her until Brian mentioned it.
I totally didn't even realize. Like, I'm like, which one is she? You know, like, I didn't know. It's like, all right, whatever. So you know, she can sing. I don't know.
You know who the antithesis of that is? Like the opposite of that of Rachel Zegler right now for me is Amin Valini. Amin Valini? Am I saying that name right?
Probably not.
She's the youngest Miss Marvel, the one with the stretchy powers or whatever.
Oh yeah. I don't know her name officially, but
her name is Amin. I don't know how to say this right. Amin Vellani, whatever. She her social media presence is all, very. I'm a fan. I love this, and she's got her ability to meme is next level. She definitely grew up in this atmosphere. She on Letterboxd, she actually gave Captain Marvel the movie 2 stars on her public profile. She's like she's someone who I had no interest in the Marvels, and still don't. But I'm now rooting for this Amin Vellani because all of her correspondence have been so, I'm a fan, I love this, nothing toxic, nothing preachy, and now I'm sort of rooting for her, even though I don't care about the movie. I'm rooting for her to actually be successful.
Well, I think that Rachel will be kind of a litmus test to show just how woke Hollywood is broken, because after this movie, she'll have been in 2 failed reboots, right? Because her first movie was West Side Story, and that failed miserably at the box office. And then once this fails, that'll be a second failed reboot. She was in Shazam too, which was a financial failure. If she keeps getting work in Hollywood, I think that's proof that there's a problem here, because how often do you know of too many actors who can be in 3 high profile flops and still have a career?
Well,
I mean,
Tom,
Jai Courtney's still in like star jail for that shit. So
yeah. Let me ask you this, Tom, because she's been going out and they've been these interviews that have been resurfacing have been old interviews, right? But because of the leaked pictures of the 7 magical creatures, I think people started doing a dive and found these things, and it becomes a question of is she actively sabotaging this movie before it gets released, so by the time it does come out, people are going to tank it just because the stage has been set by her so early on.
No, I think she's towing the company line. I really do think at this point at Disney, the next step is going to be to tear down Walt Disney's legacy. Because she's saying the same crap everybody else is, right? How many people have I heard ring the whole, well, it's not 1937 anymore. That's like the excuse for this movie. And when she first was cast, we of course figured out who she was, and we knew then the kind of politics that she was into. And I remember when she got in trouble for the whole Jeremy Renner thing, and that's where that other, video that just surfaced again recently came from, was when she was canceled for that, I guess. But it all still rings true. Can't seem to keep her foot out of her mouth. That's for sure. Like you asked or said originally in the whole question to begin with. At this point, I mean, the best thing that could happen to any of these actors, it feels like, is this actor strike, because they can't go out and promote the movies. The downside is whatever is out there is what people have to go by right now. And like you said, yeah, the pictures stirred up interest again in this project that most people didn't even realize was happening outside of our kind of spheres in the news sphere. And when they saw this, they were really kind of aware for the first time of what was going on. Their only recollection probably was the whole Peter Dinklage controversy, which lasted for a whole of 15 minutes until people were reminded again when they saw this. And that was a real slap to the face to anybody who's a little person, because if you got one little actor on there and the rest are normal size actors, and after Peter Dinklage did his thing, I mean, we've already discussed that quite a bit. So, I mean, this whole thing is just mired in bad press. I mean, and I think we've gotten to this point where, people used to say, oh, there's no such thing as bad press. I'm not so sure of that anymore. Between certain high profile flops in the last couple of years here, I think bad press is a bad thing sometimes when it comes to movies.
Well, real quick, we got a super chat from Salty Superstar Bob Dorsey for $20. Wi-Fi, bottled water, LaCroix, bottled water, Wi-Fi, LaCroix, bottled water, LaCroix, Wi-Fi, LaCroix, bottled water. Thank you, Bob.
Okay.
Hope,
I would like to
Bob's having a stroke. Someone call.
I did notice that Mike is down there sipping on his fancy Avion water.
Ooh.
I got this bottle a week ago. This is tap water. I refilled it before we started.
You know what Evian spelled backwards is, right?
Naive.
I normally have a big jug that I drink out of, but I can't find my jug. I was kind of
all right. Christopher Mays for $4.99. I really dislike Rachel Zegler, but how many normies really pay any attention to what she said? Will she actually introduce Snow White bottom line. What do you think?
She might. I don't know. She might. With social media nowadays, I think the Amber Heard thing kind of proved that the normies do pay attention to some of this stuff. And I don't know if you guys have seen the recent documentary in quotations that Netflix put out there about that crap, but I mean,
well, what's interesting is that the Slate article that we mentioned at the beginning of the segment specifically points out that all this stuff is happening on TikTok, where Zegler's getting called out for this stuff.
Yeah.
And normies, by and large, are on TikTok. And so when they get exposed to this stuff, it starts getting into their consciousness.
Well, and that's why I was bringing up the Netflix documentary, because that documentary tries to make the argument that social media a la YouTube and TikTok is what caused Amber to lose the trial. You know, we were all wrong, for thinking she was, guilty. But yeah.
Exactly. Well, I go ahead.
And Darian Murphy for $4.99, Off-White and the 7 Diversities. What were you going to say, Mike?
I was going to say, I think one of the things, bottom line, there's a couple different ways to look at that bottom line. Yes, financially, I do think it'll impact them, probably not as much as it should, but I think it will. But like one of the things we saw with Brie Larson and the way she was marketed, Captain Marvel made over $1 billion, but then they didn't really ever talk about her again. I mean, she's just now getting her second film. She's not even getting a solo second film because of how she acted. So I think it does affect things because they have projections. They also have, focus groups that they're talking to. And they also have, well, I can't think of the name, but like marketing guys that just sit analytics departments that go, hey, listen, they're watching social media. They're looking at how people are talking about her. They're looking at how people are reacting to this stuff. And so they're going to say, hey, listen, this projection is not looking good. So I think if Brie Larson is a litmus test as well, she may not have tanked that first movie, but it definitely affected her long-term marketability. And Rachel Zegler is doing this now. And this movie isn't coming out till next year? Like late next year? So already she's already affecting the marketing for this film before it's even been fully announced, fully come out, and they were already getting heat before she even opened her mouth about this movie. Yeah. So I think at this point they're like, oh my gosh, we can't afford to lose any money because we're already struggling.
And that's why I find it just amazing that the people that her handlers or whatever, I don't even know how it works, but the lack of thought that she's putting into this, but by going out there and posting these kind of things about this movie is beyond stupid to me. She's the star of the show, but she's sitting there dissing the show and talking crap about people that she wants to go buy tickets. It's wild, and she's definitely Brie Larsoning this thing up. It's just it's crazy. I don't get it. So
I like how we've made Brie Larson into a verb. That's great.
Hey guys, if you like this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and comment below on your favorite video as well. That goes a long way with helping us boost our channel and get out there in front of more people. And it lets YouTube know that we're doing something right. And if you want to catch us live, we go live 2 times a week, once on Saturdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time and on Tuesdays at 1:30 p.m. Pacific time. So join us there in the chat. We will see you on the live stream. Stay salty.